shit.
We're live.
Welcome back to the Tottenham Hour podcast on We Are Tottenham TV. Apologies for a few technical difficulties there, but we are back. Admittedly, probably with a bit less confidence than last week, and I've decided this week to use my hair to show my confidence for the top four, and that is, it's just a little bit less than last time. But I'm delighted to say we're joined by Ben Sim and Brains McLeod to go through what was an up and down weekend for Tottenham, it has to be said. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the midweek games as well, and we'll look ahead to the game against Brentford on Saturday. But before we do that, let's go around the house. Let's introduce our panel today. Sim, we'll start with you. How are you getting on this Wednesday evening?
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better now than I did at about 4:30 on Saturday, so that's positive. But let's hope tonight the result went our way yesterday. Was full of confidence there, and hopefully tonight the same thing happens again.
Yes, absolutely. Let's keep our fingers crossed for that one. Ben, how are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. I mean, I was feeling very down after that Spurs game against Brighton, but Arsenal definitely brightened up our weekends twice in a row. So, I'm good and looking forward to the games tonight as well.
Absolutely. We got a guest chat here from Bobby K, who says, big up Ben, Sim, Matty, and the return of Brains. It is the return of Brains, deputising for the absent Irish Hotspur tonight.
Finally.
Brains, how are you doing?
Brains has come back to We Are Tottenham TV. Come on.
I don't know if you guys can hear me clearly or not.
Oh, I can hear you just about.
You got issues with your audio, Brains?
It's all good. I switched.
There you go.
I kind of predicted it would happen, so I switched off. But yeah, some big shoes to fill, the Irish Hotspur, but I'm sure I'll. I like the pun there. Was that pun intended with the old brightened up our day?
No pun intended, obviously.
Look, I'm sure we'll have plenty of puns to get through as we laugh at ourselves demise over the coming hour or so. But look, let's dive straight into things. And of course, it was defeat for Tottenham at home to Brighton on Saturday afternoon. And what was an extremely lacklustre performance. And to be honest, what I kind of been fearing was coming at some point this season. I said last week and the week before that I worried our momentum had come just a little bit too early. And that we wouldn't be able to carry it through to the end of the season. And look, it could turn around again. Who knows? We're Spurs after all. It's completely unpredictable. But Sim, we all sat here last Wednesday. And we predicted 3-1, 4-1, 3-0, 4-0, and I think we were brought crashing back down to earth with that game. What do you think was our biggest problem on Saturday?
We got the one right, didn't we, Matt? Apart from the other guys.
We did, to be fair.
We didn't quite
take credit for that.
Exactly, didn't quite get the three right. I thought Brighton would come full of confidence, having what was a really bad run of form for that Arsenal game. 6 losses in a draw going into Arsenal. They went there and won with a very good performance. So I think Graham Potter is a good tactician, and I think he's always been, for me, doing a great job at Brighton. And I thought he would come with a way of setting up to stifle Tottenham because I always felt like Tottenham are quite predictable in how they play. And if you tactically set up to stifle us, we very rarely have a plan B that can be implemented with enough time to go and win the game. And that was proven on Saturday. Brighton set up with a very congested central midfield in Mwepu, Caicedo, Bissouma dominating in the centre, not giving Højbjerg and Bentancur any time on the ball whatsoever. It made it very difficult for us to progress through the centre. And also, what we've been very good usually is when team come onto us like Man City did. We're very good at having quick combinations of play to play our trouble and then play within the space that's left there. But they completely nullified any sort of not possession, any sort of supply to the front line that we had. We weren't able to get the ball through midfield, and it meant the only real way we were able to get the ball up the pitch was from the wing-backs, and the wing-backs were not up to scratch, let's be honest. You don't have much confidence on the ball when you give the ball to them, they're being pressed. You want them to either hold the ball or play a smart pass, play it inside, play it back, keep possession. I think when it comes to Emerson, he doesn't seem very confident when he has to either take someone on or when you ask him to keep possession in a tough situation. There's no confidence there that he's going to do that. And when it comes to Reguilon, he has this really weird, really annoying tendency to, when the ball's played into him, play a quick pass inside first time. And when it comes off, obviously it benefits us massively because it opens up space. But a lot of the time it can be very sloppy passing and it gives the ball away way too much. And especially when defenders and teams are waiting for it, like I'm sure Graham Potter would have drilled his team that might be happening, they always nicking the ball first, and it meant we were very much stifled throughout the 90 minutes. Brighton, on the other hand, were exploiting definitely through the centre how they outnumbered us. So they've always been a very good possession team. And so even at the best of times, even when they're going through their bad periods, they've always been a team who are very good at keeping possession. And couple that with the fact that we're a team a lot of the time who doesn't always look to dominate possession. We're happy for the other opposition team to have possession a lot of the time. It meant we were getting very frustrated when we know that we need to win this game. We were struggling to get the ball off them, and when we did get the ball off them, the only routes out were through the wing backs, and they were getting completely dominated by Cucurella and Lamptey, who, but let's be honest, probably getting our team if you swap the fullbacks. You know what I mean? They're probably better than the fullbacks that we have. So I think Brighton definitely did a job on us, and it was a bit of a wake-up call in terms of where this top four race was heading, because it all, for the world to see, it looked like it was Tottenham's to lose. It looked like people were even saying that it was going to be over before the North London derby. There were people on our fan show saying the top four race was already over. But definitely it was a wake-up call on Saturday that we've still got a lot of work to do with this team till it gets to the peak of its abilities and peak of what Conte can do with it. And we have to work on other ways to combat when teams are stifling us. Because I think we got a warning sign in the first half against Villa, to be honest, that you can stifle us in this way. And because everyone used to say we struggle against low blocks, but when you press us, we can play out. But I think a warning was given against Villa that when there is a way to press us effectively and stifle us in that way and create chances. And I thought maybe we would have learned from that warning, but it seems maybe we still got a lot of learning to do.
Yeah, look, you touched on a lot of very important and very good points there. I think we will dive into a bit more in depth. And what you're saying there were people saying that the top four race was finished before that game against Arsenal. Or before the game against Brighton. I saw a lot of people tweeting afterwards that the top four race is back on. And I was thinking, I wasn't told it was over. You know, at the end of the day, there was still 5-6 games left. There was still only 3 points in it. And I know Arsenal have a tougher running. I know they're on worse form. But you can't, with the way this season has gone, with the way the last couple of seasons have gone, I don't think there was any reason for anyone to really say conclusively that it was over and that Tottenham had it. And I think, as you say, Sim, we've been showed that's really not the case. Ben, one thing that Sim touched on there was the midfield for Spurs. And look, for me, that was Bentancur's only second bad performance for Tottenham. You know, coupled with the Manchester United game, I thought he was non-existent. When he was on the ball, he was slow in possession. He was giving the ball away with his passes. He wasn't really pressing in midfield when the likes of Caicedo and Mwepu had the ball, as we've seen from him in the past. And we hear a lot of Tottenham being called the one-man team, or with Harry Kane, or the two-man team with Kane and Son. For me, I think a performance like that shows just how much we rely on Bentancur and Højbjerg as well, who I think was off the pace. Do you think it kind of shows that we are more of a rounded team, or do you think it was that midfield performing poorly kind of resulted in the front line not being able to get into the game?
Yeah, I mean, we were hearing before the game that Bentancur was struggling with a knock on the knee, so that maybe might have played into the way he played his football. But I think that it was just a tactical masterclass from Potter, to be honest, the way he kind of like strangled us in midfield with Basuma, Mwepu, Caicedo. He had another man in there as well, put literally 4 men in midfield, which was made us a bit of an uphill task facing with only 2 midfielders in there, and coupled with Harry Kane as well, who didn't really drop into midfield like he has been doing in the past couple of games. I don't think it showed whether we were a rounded team or not, but it showed that that tactically we've only really got one way to play, and I think that we need to find variations in our play if we're going to start winning consistently. And once teams kind of found us out, like we did in the first half against Villa, like we did for 90 minutes against Brighton. Against Villa, we found a way around that. But against Brighton, we couldn't really find a way around that. And I think that's a problem. That's a problem. And it shows the kind of blueprint of how you can beat Tottenham. And if you kind of pack that midfield, it presented all sorts of problems with us. And I thought that Harry Kane probably should have done a bit more work in kind of dropping back and helping out in the midfield. I'm not sure if that was down to Harry Kane or that was instruction from Antonio Conte, but I thought that's where the problems really lied on the weekend.
Yeah, look, Island Life makes that same point in the comments that Harry didn't drop in the middle at all. And I think we were speaking last week, and I think a couple of us identified that as a way for Tottenham to kind of control that midfield. You know, Harry Kane's creative spark maybe nullified a little bit if Basuma was kind of stuck on him, but at least it would even out the the numbers in midfield, and we could try and control the game from there and get the ball out wide and control from that way. And for me, the biggest concern was Brighton absolutely flooded the middle of the park and outnumbered us there, but they never ever looked exposed in the wide areas. And when we're a team that relies so heavily on players like Reguilon and Emerson, and even Son and Kulusevski, who I think were out wide a lot more than usual on Saturday, the fact that they clearly had more numbers in the middle, we should have been able to take advantage of that out wide, and we really couldn't. And brains ultimately comes down to the poor performance from our wing backs. Do you think Reguilon is definitely a player that splits opinion more than Emerson, but do you think we need to upgrade on both those positions in the summer, or do you think it was just a bad performance from the two of those?
Someone give Matt a prize for the most understated question ever. Like,
fair enough.
Like, hell's yeah, Matt. We got to like get rid of everything we've got. I mean, arguments for, says if he came back and had a stormer, and Reggie kind of has it, but like Sam and Ben were saying the other day on the update, like, not really an out and out wing back, is he? So it's. I hate this thing of asking players to play where they are not truly born to play. They don't love it. You've seen, like, Doherty ask him to play as a right back, and he's like, "What are you doing to me? That's not my game. Let him play where he actually loves to play." And you just look what you see. You just see a player start to love playing football, and that's what it essentially is about, right? As like when you're getting pulled out of obviously professional players. It's a part of the job. You have to move around, right? But if you love what you're doing, you play better in the positions. So that's what we're seeing out there. And I don't think it's any surprise at all that every team coming up against us know that Emerson is not a right back, and we don't really have. If Sess isn't playing, Reggie can do a job, but he's not really a wing back, So we don't have wing backs on either side. We could obviously do things where Lucas and Bergwijn, we could do that. If we're looking at Kostic, we're looking at an attacker. We're looking at doing that anyway, So we're looking at these type of solutions. So I just think that in part, I agree pretty much everything that's been said so far. But there's nuance in some of these things. Like, so the masterclass part of what Potter did, it wasn't just flooding the midfield. I was sitting with Shawnee B, everyone's new favorite pop singer, Sean Butler.
The one that gets battered everywhere he goes, that one.
Yeah, he gets hammered everywhere he goes. But he was saying, he was like, look, all 20 players are in the middle of the park. Now, actually, that's why Kane doesn't, in his head, think I'm going to drop in here, because actually there's loads of opportunity in behind them today. And so they were kind of going, come at us, come in behind us. They can handle that, right? Because they're going to think it's going to be a ball over the top. The reason they're okay with playing so high up and having that high line is because they shut the passing lanes out. So we can say that like the midfield work was phenomenal, but actually McAllister and Trossard shutting down the passing lanes means like remember like the Man City game at the start of the season, how that goal came. It's someone going in close, little touch around the corner, and if you actually see a lot of our breaks, that's how they happen. Someone drops in, little touch, and then boom, we're away, right? So we've actually created and cut through the passing lanes. They know that is actually how Spurs break. That's our DNA. They shut those lines down, and Bentancur, obviously, if passing lines are shut, midfield players have to constantly move. They have to constantly go up and down and move side to side. But now that's when the masterclass of having a stacked midfield means that anywhere Bentancur goes, if he's the forward pivot, he's going to have no space. He's going to run into space. He's going to run into a blockade everywhere he goes. And that just visually, peripherally shut down his confidence. And I think you can see it. Fair enough, he might have been carrying a knock because he's going to even do it even further. But you could tell those were the things. And Conte hinted at it. He said, when a team closes down the space like that, you need players to like take initiative. And he's talking about, that's why he pulled Bentancur off. He wanted him to come even deeper. He wanted the double pivot to work in a different way, take another channel. You see how much time they gave Dyer and Romero. They weren't afraid. They didn't gegenpress. They didn't come up. They just said, go, do what you want. Try get through these impossible channels now. And so that's the thing about Spurs. When you shut down our only real way that we like to kind of in, out, That move, how many goals have we seen where we go in, boom, round the corner, into Kane, boom, round the corner. Shut it down, Spurs can't do nothing. And that is the big thing. So Conte needs more time or better quality players, because right now we have one way of attacking and we get really good results, 3 games in a row, fuck loads of goals. But shut that down, we got nothing. And so he needs more time to develop that. That's the bigger problem for me, I think.
I think that's a really good analysis of the situation we're in right now, and I think none of us could have put that better ourselves. And I feel bad to say that I'm going to have to immediately change the subject, because I don't know if anyone has seen, Tottenham tweeted out a couple of minutes ago, turn your notifications on, we've got some news for you. And I personally assume that is the new contract announcement for Oliver Skipp, but do make sure to stick around. You get the first reaction to that news here live on We Are Tottenham TV. We go back into the Spurs game for another couple of minutes, but we will react to that as soon as Spurs confirm what we assume is a Skipp contract.
It's been announced.
Is it Ollie Skipp?
Breaking news.
2027, yeah. Well, it doesn't say Ollie Skipp, but it says you can never have thought that a young boy walking through, you'd get to this stage, and then the Tottenham emblem 2027. So it's got to be Skipp.
Harry Kane.
Imagine
I thought they were going to use some like really lame, like kind of like nursery, like some sort of kind of hint, like we'll never skip over this guy. Who do you think it is?
Well, look, I think that's a really, I suppose, good way to move on to the next question with our midfield. Sim, which I'll come to you on, is the lack of depth that we have in there. When, as Brian said, when we had to take Bentancur off to change things in there a little bit, the only option we really had was Harry Winks. And I've seen a few people kind of criticise Antonio Conte for the way he set up for this game and the changes that he made. But ultimately, the only other midfield option he had on the bench was Harvey White, and we're not going to bring him on. With all due respect to the ability he has as a young player, he's not the one that we're going to bring on to try and turn around a game like this against Brighton.
Not in a game like that. Not with those midfielders. They got to eat them alive.
No, I agree
Absolutely.
with that, and I think the only thing I would criticise Conte for, I wouldn't necessarily criticise him for not going to a 3 in the middle, even though that would have been one of the ways I would have combated how Brighton were playing, is to put another player in midfield. However, that does mean either going to a back 4 or taking off one of Kulu, Kane or Son. You're not going to do that. But one thing I would potentially criticise him for is if the wing backs are not going to be doing the job out wide that we asked them to, like for example taking people on and trying to be more offensive, then you have to change them. You have to try either put one of Kulu at wing back and maybe put Lucas in the front three, or Bergwijn, or maybe even put Session on the right hand side, which I think he's definitely more adept to taking people on than Reguilon and Emerson. And obviously Session didn't get any minutes on the pitch on Saturday. That's one thing I would say I would be a bit critical of Conte, because I think he's stuck with the wing backs. I don't know whether it was naively or out of necessity, but that was a bit frustrating because they weren't getting to the byline and getting crosses in. They weren't taking people on. When they were being a spare man in our build-up play, they weren't able to progress the ball with clever passes or anything like that. So that's the one thing I would have criticised him for, is not changing at least one of the fullbacks to try and get more joy out wide, because it was clear that going through the centre wasn't working. And obviously we don't have very good like technical or flair players in central areas that we can bring on and maybe get our foot on the ball, and players who are comfortable maybe on the half turn receiving the ball under pressure and able to deal with that. We don't really have that. So Winks was never really going to help that so much. There's only so much he can do. He can play a few passes forward, but it wasn't going to help massively. I think he more brought on Winks because Bentancur was on a yellow and maybe struggling a bit with an injury. That's probably why he more brought him on. I don't think it was more because he thought Winks was going to change the game, unfortunately. So I think that's why I'd criticise Conte for not changing the fullbacks. But again, we're talking about, I'm criticising for not putting Bergwijn or Kulu at wing back, which is not really their role, but maybe that's something he could have tried. But it was interesting to hear from Conte after the game saying this is a kind of game where if you can't win, you definitely don't lose. So maybe he was more thinking about, okay, we might not win this game, but we'll take the 0-0 draw. I guess we'll take the draw and we'll move on from it, as opposed to trying everything, going gung-ho for the win. Unfortunately, we ended up losing anyway, so it backfired for him, you have to say, in either case. But I think that goes to maybe Conte's mentality during the game, where I don't think he was willing to risk it all to try and get the win. I think maybe he was not content, but he was willing to take a point in this kind of game, it seemed, from his comments after the game.
And I suppose to some extent that could be sort of a luxury with the position that we're in and having the advantage in the top four race that, if there's a game like that where things are on the fence a little bit and, something could go wrong, that we can, I suppose, accept a draw. And I know we as fans may not want that, but ultimately I'm happy that the manager isn't, doing, I suppose, threatening or position in that top four just to win a game for the sake of it, because we didn't have to win. And I think that's a lot of Spurs fans said, first of all, losing the game wasn't an issue, but it was the way in which we lost it. And a lot of Spurs fans said even before that goal, I kind of would have taken a draw. And when you're playing a team against Brighton, I was kind of thinking of it this way going into the game, where if we had drawn against them, it would have been in a weird way a point gained because Arsenal lost to them. Mm-hmm. And I know it may be a very simplistic way of looking at it, but yeah, either way, the way that we lost the game was the worst thing about it. And look, I'm sure people don't want to talk about this game and the defeat for too long. So Ben, I want to come to you on what happened after Tottenham lost to Brighton. And for anyone watching who may not know, Jan Bednarek, the man who famously scores own goals for Southampton, decided to put one in at the right end as Arsenal lost for the third game in a row down at St Mary's. And with games coming up against Chelsea, Manchester United and West Ham, it's not entirely impossible that we'll be talking about 6 defeats in a row, but we're not going to go there just yet. But Ben, like it says in the title, we really, really got away with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We really got away with one. And looking at the game, looking at the stats, I mean, Arsenal just missed a host of chances. Saka pretty much missing an open goal. Smith Rowe miskicks one, and Fraser Forster makes a brilliant save. I mean, he was on fire.
Oh my God.
He was on fire, wasn't he? Absolutely on fire. And you got to be an Arsenal fan looking at that, being like, we just spursed it up there. Maybe we need to change the term to RC or something, but they got to look at themselves and being like, we really, really missed an opportunity there. I mean, you saw, I don't know if you saw, but there were scenes in that Arsenal away and they were watching the Spurs game just before their game kicked off, and there was literally, it looked like they'd won a trophy after Brighton had scored and it finished 1-0. And what more motivation do you need than that to go out and beat a Southampton side who hadn't won in about 6 games or something like that, also on really poor form. So Arsenal got to be looking at themselves thinking, are we really serious in this top 4 race? I think we'll learn more about them as well over the coming weeks. And if they do go on to lose 6 games in a row, I find it hard to believe that they will, because I think their performance against Southampton was that tad bit better than it was in the previous games. At least they were creating chances. So that is one thing to say. So the top 4 race is not over by any stretch of the imagination, but we definitely got away with one this weekend, and Arsenal got to be kicking themselves with the way they failed to get even a goal at the weekend.
Yeah, and look, again, I want to touch on that a little bit more shortly because Arsenal lost, it's funny. But we do have the official announcement here from Spurs. They say, we are delighted to announce that Oliver Skipp has signed a new contract with the club that will run until 2027. The 21-year-old midfielder, who is currently recovering from an injury, has made 28 appearances for us across all competitions so far this season, making his competitive first-team debut in a Carabao Cup win over West Ham in October 2018. The academy graduate has gone on to make 52 appearances for us, whilst enjoying a successful loan spell at Norwich City last season, where he featured in 45 of their 46 league games and was named in the PFA Championship Team of the Season. And that loan to Norwich, the best part of it is Tottenham fans hijacking their Man of the Match Twitter poll every week and him getting probably 46 of the 46 Man of the Match awards. But Brains, that has been an incredible loan out for Tottenham. And we're looking at players like Jack Clarke on a number of loans. We had Harvey White at Portsmouth last season. Kian Atete is struggling a bit at Cheltenham, or at Northampton, is doing better at Cheltenham now. We're seeing a lot of these loan moves not really be fruitful. But when you're in a situation when one of these, like with Oliver Skipp, when it works out, it makes all the others worth it. And do you think it's been a masterstroke from Spurs, or was that potential always in the player?
I thought it was a good idea last season when he went to Norwich. However, like, Norwich isn't an easy team to go as a midfielder. Like, look at Billy Gilmore this season. He's not had a great time, and he's a phenomenal player. So it's not like you can just go and to like a team that's in relegation battles and show up. And he showed up like literally every game last season. He was a pleasure to watch. And it was a case of, like, I've never seen a player go away to a club and have everyone just dying to get him back. You know, like, we're seeing some great stuff out of Troy Parrott. Like, we're seeing some good things, but it's not like Skippy last season. And when he came in, that desire, that kind of like hope that everyone has, that is heavy for a young player to come in and live up to. Because we were all thinking like, oh my God, he could. What if he plays like that for us? And then he did, and it was like something weird where he went like, the eight starts that he had, like him in the team, we didn't lose a game with him in the team. If he started, like all these crazy things are happening. So really like mad unfortunate that he's had this strange, almost like mysterious X-Files injury. Like we need to call up Mulder and Scully and find out what's going on with his package, you know what I'm saying? Get Skippy a new package, But something has happened with that groin, but it's one of those injuries, like I feel I had it last, not the groin injury, but these types of combinations, like there's never really one thing, they're all linked. So it could be internal, it could be quad, could be thigh, all linked to the groin, So I really feel for him. But I think because of his age, I think he can come back stronger. And God, I'm just like looking forward to getting him back playing again. Because if he was here now, how much would we always be going like, oh, okay, good. Bentancur, Højbjerg, rotate with him and Skippy, we'd be in a real strong position. That's mad that we think about that by one player. Look at his age. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's mad. And I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I'm looking at the picture now and it seems as though he's either been in the gym loads or he's put on a bit of weight. I mean, he looks a bit more stockier than we've seen him in the past. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Yeah, I've seen that picture of him. He looks a bit big, doesn't he?
Yeah. A stronger Skipp is a scary thought for opposition fans, I won't lie to you. Yeah, no, he does though. He's been, maybe this recovery injury is doing him better than we thought, but look, it is massive news for Spurs, and the stats spoke for themselves earlier in the season, and how much better we performed with Oliver Skipp in the team, and how many more games we won with him in there. And it just goes to show that we're not a one-man team. We're not over reliant on Kane and Son in ways that we were last season. There are other players in this team that are doing their bit. There's Bentancur, there's Romero, there's Skipp, there's Lloris at times in that game against Aston Villa, there's Kulusevski. We have so much going for us right now, and it's just about kind of plugging the holes. I don't know if you saw the story from Matt Law a while ago, but Spurs had tweeted more to come. I was just off Skipp. Okay, I thought there's more news coming. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, Skipp's unbelievable, and it's great that we've got to sign a new contract. Yeah, he's really important. The players pulling their weight. And do you know what? Actually, this compilation they just put up.
What's amazing about Skipp is that him now under the tutelage of Conte is actually incredible, because you're seeing how like Conte can like bring things out of players. Like him with Conte for like a full season, like that'll be incredible for a lad. It really will, just for his future, going on to play for England, maybe captaining like Spurs. Like I think it's incredible that we have someone like Conte to get his hands on a guy like that who's built the way he is and who has that kind of passion to play. That's the thing for me. It's like, wow, that's really good.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And like, come back to what I was saying, there's a really good kind of core of a squad in place there. The story from Matt Law today about us wanting to sign 6 players, I think is probably a bit optimistic, but it's what we need to do. But we have Romero in there, we have Bentancur, we have Skipp, Højbjerg, Kulusevski, Son, Kane, and it's about plugging those gaps in and around them and then starting to add that depth. I think it might take another year, it could take another summer, another January, and then another summer before we're in a situation where we can really push. And the only thing for me is Conte loves to win league titles in his second season. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen at Spurs because of how high City and Liverpool's level of performance is. But if he gets us back into the Champions League consistently, and if he gets us to win a domestic trophy, that is massive success for him.
But Matt, will he be happy to stay here under those kind of constraints, only going for top 4, only going for a domestic trophy?
I think he will be, because he wouldn't have taken this job in the first place if that was something that feared him or that scared him. Like ultimately, he knew coming in that we weren't going to get to the level of Man City, Liverpool. If he did
progression, like if he sees like one season we get 4 and like we win a trophy, or like then we're like 3 but we got close to 2 but we're actually like semi-finals of champions. If he sees that every year his work is working with the players and the club is kind of like helping him fix in every market, every transfer market, they're helping him fix a little thing, then I think like why wouldn't you? Because it is, everyone wants to be a part of a project. Like he's moved on quickly because like clubs have kind of like quickly shifted their focus. Like he would have stayed at Inter if they didn't want to disassemble his entire team he built. So I think if they do back him and we build around what he sees, then I think he can stay. But a lot of shithousery is surely going to come down the line from from these assholes at the top.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, but look, Conte said, didn't he, in an interview that this is when he got kind of misquoted. He was saying we've only got 1% chance of finishing top 4. He was like, I like to feel that 1% chance of that. That's what motivates him. At least having 1% chance of challenging for the biggest things. And he said when he came to Spurs, he felt we had at least a 1% chance of getting top 4. And I think next season, I don't think he's going to say I have to win the league, but he needs to feel at least we're going to be competitive. At least we're going to be challenging, even if it means missing out by like 9 points or something. At least be in the conversation until the latter stage of the season. That's what he's aiming for, I think, for next season, and that's going to be difficult. Don't get me wrong, but there's no reason why, if we do get the players he wants and he gets the whole pre-season, that we can't have massive improvements on this season.
Yeah, for definite. The most important thing is that we get the business done that he wants to get done, and we've done that already with those 2 signings in January. Now we're getting Skipp down to a contract, and hopefully there's something with Kane. I just want to go to a comment as well from Akshegs, who says, I think Matt Hayes kind of looks like Oliver Skipp right now. And to be honest, if it gets me...
This ain't Matt Hayes in here, it's only Skipp.
Look, if it gets me a £50,000 a week contract, I look like whoever you want me to look like. But look, I want to touch on the midweek games for a minute. And I was going to tweet this out a while ago, but I didn't, because people like to give out about my opinions on Twitter sometimes. I just want to bring it up and see what you guys think. Taking into consideration Man United's defeat to Liverpool last night, and assuming or hoping that Arsenal are going to lose to Chelsea, and I'll come to you first on this, Ben, does that change anything? Does that actually put Tottenham in a better position to get forward? And of course, I'm delighted that they have and will, or hopefully will, lose these games. But does that actually change anything for Tottenham? Because for me, when I was looking at the run-in last week or the week before, I had identified these games as games where Arsenal were going to lose. That was where they were going to drop points. So do you think this is actually a benefit or a good thing to Spurs, or is it just things playing out in the way that we all expected?
I think it's playing out in the way we all expected, but the way it all expected is a benefit for Spurs. So I think probably on the both, to be honest. I mean, last night was an absolute annihilation of Manchester United, wasn't it? And when you're looking at the form of Man United coming into it, I mean, they weren't exactly world beaters against Norwich, and they relied on Cristiano Ronaldo to pull them through. And by the way, credit to all the Liverpool fans last night, the way they showed their respects to Cristiano yesterday with obviously what the terrible news was. I thought that was a heartwarming moment from everyone coming together. And if Cristiano is going to have a bit part to play from now until the end of the season, I can't see them winning many games with their fixture list. Similar to Arsenal as well. I mean, I looked at Arsenal's fixtures last night, and they've got Leeds at home and Everton away. But apart from that, they all look like games that they might not win. But back onto your question, I think that it just plays into the narrative that Spurs do have the easiest run, and Spurs are looking like the favourites in this race. But at the end of the day, this is football, and a few weeks ago it looked like for all to see that Spurs were nowhere near the top 4, and Spurs weren't getting the top 4, and suddenly a few games on, we're the favourites after a few good results, a few bad results from our rivals. But things can flip in an instant, and we've just lost to Brighton, and if we don't pick ourselves up straight away, it can flip again completely the other way. So we need to keep our wits about us. We need to stay positive and stay confident and stay on the right track, and I think we will get it. But the way things are looking right now, it does look like that we can stumble over the line to top 4. But like I said, things can change very quickly.
Yeah, but just on that point as well, I remember when Arsenal playing Liverpool, I was talking to an Arsenal fan, and I was like talking, we really need Arsenal to lose tonight to Liverpool. It's such a big game. Like it'll be so good if Arsenal can lose tonight to Liverpool. And I remember the Arsenal fan was saying, well, it doesn't really matter too much because we're in a good position. We can afford to lose to Liverpool, so it shouldn't really matter too much if we do or not, because we're still in a good position. But I was like, yeah, it's true. It might not matter whether you are still in a good position, but we still need you to lose. So we're still very positive if you do lose that game. So I think in terms of tonight, whether does it change? It does, because if Arsenal do get a result, even a draw tonight, that's very, very positive, and that's something that they can take into the rest of the season in terms of motivation and also points on the board. So we need them to lose tonight. or especially drop points at least. We need them to drop points, because if they don't, then all of a sudden the ball swings back in their favour, I think, if they get a win tonight. So I think it is very imperative they lose tonight. It keeps things in our grasp. And also, they've always been talking about for a long time, for ages now, this game in hand. Arsenal, but X points behind with the game in hand, X points ahead with the game in hand. Well, that's wiped out after today. There's no more games in hand after today's game. So they have to lose tonight, and then all of a sudden it's a lot more positive for Spurs, I think.
Yeah, also it does make me feel a bit dirty wanting Chelsea to win, but come on the Chelsea tonight.
As long as you're not down in that Chelsea crest.
That made me sick.
On the top of what Sim's saying as well is like, yeah, obviously, like, you know, imagine they get a draw and all of a sudden it's like, you know, they're 2 points within us, you know. But the thing that we really kind of want is, like, when you go on a 3-game skid, it's crazy. Like, it's so, like, changing rooms become toxic. It's hard to deal with. And so you really need something to get you out of it. And so we can't afford this to be the thing that gets them out of it. You know, like if they get a draw, that could be a catalyst to get them out of the funk. So we kind of want them to lose, and lose bad. We don't even want them to lose 1-0, because they could still, you know, if they play well and only lose 1-0, they could still see that as a catalyst. So we kind of want them to get hammered, so that they're completely, it keeps the morale of the team, and it keeps everyone going, Arteta out, and everyone fighting with each other. That's what we need, you know. So I think it does really matter.
I think that might be the best opinion I've ever seen on here. Someone wanting Arsenal to lose and be battered. I think we'd all love that. That's, you know, I'm just getting excited even thinking about it.
We want them to destroy themselves from within.
Yeah,
look, they're good at that.
I want to go to Brentford on the weekend and sing Arsenal get battered everywhere they go. 4 losses in a row. I mean, what would be more sweet?
Look, let's hope you do get to that, and that's a wonderful segue to talk about that game on Saturday. Of course, Tottenham go to the Brentford Community Stadium at 5:30 on Saturday to face what will be a tough challenge, and what is probably not a fixture we wanted to see on the back of that defeat to Brighton. If we're looking for a game to kind of turn that form around and to be able to kind of control a game ourselves, I think going to Brentford is a poor place to start. Brian, so I'll start with you on this one. Look, there's rumours around Christian Eriksen and a potential return to Spurs. I think both Gary Jacob and Fabrizio Romano said it yesterday that there is interest there from Tottenham. No talks have happened yet. But do you think that's something that will be playing on Eriksen's mind? And if so, do you think it's a good or a bad thing for us?
I don't think it'll be playing on his mind, because, like, Christian Eriksen's a phenomenal player, but he's like kind of a consummate professional when it comes to these things. So I think he'll be up for the game. I think he'll be really up for the game. And if anything, like, it would just be kind of driving him to have a really good performance, because, you know, I think that marriage of Conte and Christian is a great thing. And so I would be up for that. I still would love to get players like Zaniolo, and, you know, just imagine getting Kostic and Zaniolo. It's like, what's going on here? How do we go from
dreams can come true?
Yeah. So, like, but again, like, for the romances of it as well, and just also seeing that Eriksen is actually going through like a bit of a revival here. Like, he's his positioning, his quality on the ball, like how he whips balls out, it's still kind of like second to none in the Prem. Which is showing he really is doing it at the high level. And then he goes away with his national team, boom, he gets 2 goals. It's like, it's a beautiful thing. So if he's gone into his glory years, like, you know, I know that they're talking about, like, you know, older age players, but I think someone like him to come in, even if it's not playing every single game, but like, just like the quality that he can bring back and the morale, I think that's an amazing thing. But what they're doing, what that Brentford team is doing over the last, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I've been watching all of the games that Christian's been playing, but they're fixed problems they had. Like, there was a time where they were just leaking goals, and it was completely destroying their stability. All kind of gone. Like, they've really got something strong. They build up well. The front two really link well. Like, Christian actually going in he's filling and he's picking up either side of the pitch. When he goes either side, he does such a versatile role as a kind of midfielder. Sometimes he drops in really well, but his like the vision he has, that it's given them an extra element that I think is just, if he was there the whole season, if they were on this pump that they're on now, like, I think they'd be in a really good, I think they'd be top 10. I think they'd be like in a really good position. You know, they maybe even be fighting for a higher position, you know, like maybe like 6 or you know, can you think about that? Brentford coming up and getting that, like, that's amazing. So I'd be worried if he actually, if he kind of feels so good there, and they actually think, like, let's actually go for this next season if he wants to stay, because it's a great project, But yeah, as in, what do I feel about the game? Like, kind of a little bit shitting myself because of the way that they're playing, the style that they play, and if they get 1-0 ahead, it could be bad. Could be bad times. So we need a reaction, right? We need a reaction after that. And these games, it's like the next one we win could be that game that got us over the line because of the other fixtures, So I gotta hope these boys are coming in with the Conte fire of hell, like burning in their asses, like just get them, light a fire, and just come out and just have that kind of performance, give it all that game. That's
100%. Yeah, I'm just looking at this midfield, which, like you say, has with Eriksen going in there has changed that Brentford season. And in the last 6 games, they played a midfield of I forget who they are now. There's Christian Eriksen, Janelt, and Norgard. So they've played their last 6 games. They've won 5 of those 6, including that 4-1 win at Stamford Bridge. Before that midfield became their solid midfield, they picked up 1 point out of a possible 24. So from 1 in 24 to 15 points in 18, just goes to show how important that trio in midfield is to them. They're versatile around us.
Look at what happens. You get some of the Nordic Vikings in to just fucking run the show,
Yeah, look, it's made a change. All they're missing is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, but let's hope they partner up with Spurs instead of Brentford. But look, there's versatility around that. They played a 5-3-2, a 3-5-2, a 4-3-3. They can switch things around there. But Sim, how concerning is it that on the back of that game against Brentford, when
it just went down?
Yeah, stream's lagging on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I think we're back up. Yeah, look, in terms of the question you asked, how worried are you after identifying the problems we're coming up against a very informed Brentford side? I actually think as well they're very much a side who could exploit our weaknesses. Especially because they very much have a focus on the wide areas with the Rico Henry on one wing. I can't remember who they play on the right as well. But they like those wing backs like to get forward. They like to come into the attack. They're very good from set pieces as well. Long throws, which we haven't had to deal with much so far. They're very good at pumping balls into box from long throws, and we don't have the most aerially dominant defenders either. That's a bit of a worry. And obviously they've really rallied around Christian Eriksen since he's come in. He's become the hub of that team, and with that kind of quality added into their structural system, they've been flying. I think every game he started, they've won. I believe. I don't think they've lost a game or even drawn a game when he started yet. So that kind of momentum and that togetherness that he's brought to the side, which they had at the beginning of the season but was waning as results started to dissipate. But now they've got added in that feel-good factor with Eriksen in the team, and the togetherness that Brentford already have because they're new to the Premier League. They're going to be a very dangerous team, coupled with the small pitch as well, which is going to be, they're going to be able to suffocate us a lot easier. A small congested pitch, and obviously they like to play 3 in the middle. So it's definitely a massive challenge. It's going to be a massive challenge. Does Conte still continue with the 3-4-3? Does he think he's going to match Brentford up with a 3-5-2 on Saturday, or does he continue with 3-4-3? It's questions to be asked, because I definitely think tactically there are going to be problems that Brentford are going to pose us on Saturday, which are going to be difficult to deal with. It's a bit similar to Villa, who played 2 up front and gave us a lot of trouble in that first half, and then obviously Brighton having that 3 in the middle and 3 at the back as well, which gave us a lot of trouble. So I do envisage Brentford giving us a lot of trouble on Saturday, and with the form they're in. So it's nowhere near a given that we're going to win that game on Saturday, and hoping we come up with a plan to combat the ways we've been playing the last couple games, because if we go in with the same kind of the same setup, then I do fear that we could be undone again if we're not on top of our game and for our full fitness. Obviously, we do have the better players. We do overall have the better quality, but I think it might be a bit of a tactical battle on Saturday, because Brentford are definitely set up to exploit our weaknesses. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, and look, you make a good point. There are questions to be asked tactically, but Ben, there are questions to be asked as well in terms of the personnel after that game against Brighton. And we've seen people on Twitter blaming Harry Kane's trip to Atalanta. They were talking about the song before kickoff as the problems that we're having here, but there's problems within the squad, within the personnel and the mentality of some of those players. And when you're questioning who deserves to be on that pitch, ultimately the only position you can really see us rotating is in left wing back between Reguilon and Sessegnon, because all other 10 positions, you can kind of see that the players who are playing there right now are the best available. You're not going to drop Ben Davis or Eric Dyer for Sanchez, regardless of how bad they're playing, because Sanchez can't really play in those positions, and you're not going to drop Bentancur for Winks because it's Harry Winks. So are you concerned? Yeah, pretty much. Are you concerned that that's the only position we can really rotate in, and then do you think we will?
It's an interesting one. I mean, I'm thinking that maybe you stick with Reguilon at left wing back and put a Sessegnon in at right wing back, just because Emerson he offers a bit of defensive stability, but going forward, he just offers absolutely nothing. I mean, not just recently, but ever since he's come into the team, even under Nuno, when he's getting forward, the opposition just don't care about him. They let him have the free roam of that right wing, and they know he cannot do anything with that football. And that's what worries me about Emerson. So I might personally, if I was the manager, I'd potentially look at bringing in a Sessegnon at right wing back, stick with Reguilon, or stick Sessegnon at left wing back and put a Bergwijn or someone like that, and probably Bergwijn, because I wouldn't want to shift Kulusevski from his position. Stick a Bergwijn at right wing back and see how that goes. But it's untried and untested, and if it goes wrong, obviously everyone's going to be pointing at Conte. But I would try to get Emerson out that team. That's what I'd personally try and do.
Yeah, I think it's important to that. I said it last week when we were talking about how we're looking at the right backs to potentially bring in, that even Fabio Paratici has realised that was a mistake. He's not good enough to play in right back in that team, and I think he's kind of opposite to Sergio Reguilon, because for me, Reguilon last season, the problem with him was I thought he was being played in too defensive of a team. He was playing for Jose Mourinho. He was asked to be doing a lot more defending than I thought he wanted to do. And he's a player who, in his time at Sevilla, was at his best when he was allowed to attack, when he was given that free role where he could fly forward. And now he's gotten that in this Conte team. And yeah, he scored a couple of goals. He's gotten a couple of assists, but he's really not setting the world alight, and he's not good enough. And I don't think Real Madrid are going to come back in and trigger that buyback clause this summer. And you then ask the question, will anybody take him? Will we have the opportunity to upgrade on him? Because if we're going to improve in a position there where we spent a lot of money recently, we're going to have to lose him to then be able to spend that money, whether it's on a Kostic or whether it's on, I don't know, a player coming from the Premier League. But for a team that relies so much on wingbacks and a Conte system that depends so much on them, the fact that they're possibly two of our weakest positions at the moment is a massive concern, and again could be make or break for Champions League for the rest of the season.
When it comes to Reguilon, I think the trouble we're getting from him at left wing back is, I think, you're right, at Sevilla he was a very good left back, attacking left back, because he's very good at overlapping. I think what Reguilon's very good at is running in a straight line into space at high speeds. I think
that's high praise, Tim.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, we've
he
seen
runs
him
straight.
He can run straight. He can run straight very effectively. And what we've seen him at left wing back, the biggest positive is him getting into those positions. He's done it a few times without, obviously, people have criticised his output at the end. But he is very good at running into space and getting into those positions. And
are you saying he's in the wrong sport? Are you saying he should be a sprinter or something, 100 meter sprinter or something?
Maybe. But I think Sevilla, because he was at left back, he could always overlap the left winger, which the defender always was having responsibility for. So he had a bit of a free rein to overlap the winger and have space to cross the ball and get into and do that kind of stuff. At Tottenham, it's a bit different, because at left wing, when you're playing at left wing back, Son is quite central now. How he plays his 3-4-3. He doesn't quite play out wide a lot. So Reguilon is having to deal with a defender every time he gets forward, and he isn't the best at taking people on and dribbling and that kind of stuff. And when he pretty much has a defender up against him, he sometimes he'll take him on, but more often than not he'll check back and pass back and not have the confidence to do that, because his game isn't really dribbling and stuff like that. It's running into where the space is and then exploiting that space. But when he's asked to take people on, he's not, in that sense, he's not like a winger. That's why he struggles in that kind of game. So I think in some games he can be good, but in games like on Saturday, when he's got defenders up against him, I think he struggles. But I think at left back it's a bit different, because when you're a fullback going forward, you don't have to. You're more often not dealing with the opposition winger who's asked to track back and defend against you, and a lot of the time they just let you go because they're wingers, they're not defenders. But when he's dealing with defenders who are more adept at defending against him, he can struggles a lot more.
Yeah, he didn't do well
that's
against.
fair.
It's like it's Lamptey, like Lamptey's kind of quite attacking. He's tricky, and Lamptey's great at getting back. So you can see it. Like that's a really great wing back against Reggie can kind of do it. I'll tell you what the solution is. My God, 15 million for Kostic, because Kostic can rotate with Son. He's a natural position. That's actually his natural position. He actually scores loads of goals when he's in that position, but he's also a great option at left wing back. So, you can give Reggie a chance next season, and when Son's tired, play Kostic there, or just have Kostic there. And that quality of player, like that's a real high quality player. Like he's levels above Reggie, like really, like almost 2 or 3 levels above Reggie. 15 million? Are you kidding me? Like wow, like that is an incredible buy if we got that. Solves that problem.
And the thing is, Brains, if we go for Kostic, that signifies us going in the Antonio Conte way instead of sticking with the Daniel Levy way, buying young and, hoping they've got a sell-on value and stuff like that. If you buy a Kostic at 29 years old with the kind of stats that he's producing, that for me signifies that we're going to back Conte this summer.
Yeah, and Kostic's on his way up. He's kind of like gradually getting, like, you can tell this is a player on the way up. That's what's so impressive about him. It's just... You're 100% right there. God knows what you do on the right side. Like, just pray Matt Doherty gets like a new leg.
But the thing is, with the numbers our front three are producing, Kulusevski, Son and Kane, like goals and assists wise, imagine if we add a wing back who can produce similar numbers as well. Then all of a sudden we become so much more unpredictable when we go forward than we already are. So Kostic would be a fantastic addition if we were to get him in.
DJ Spence right-sided?
Yeah.
Are we still kind of looking at him? Because that could be a decent option. Young, fast.
Yeah, and the kid from
option.
Torino as well. Apparently, there's some big links with him over the past couple of days.
A lot of talk about that. I'm sure we'll getting a lot of analysis from Matt Hayes on the prospective signings. We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm looking. There's so much news coming out today. I was hoping to get to some of it this evening as well, but talks of Wilfred Singo and Gleison Bremer coming in on a double deal from Torino with Sam Johnson. We're apparently even more confident getting that in a free. Conte's interested in Calvin Phillips. We've reservations about Youri Tielemans. There's so much news coming out. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic transfer window.
Is Calvin Phillips been mentioned in the same sentence with Spurs? Because that's kind of impressive.
That'd be a brilliant signing.
Nice.
Matt, do you think there's actually anything in these rumours at the moment, or is it just paper talk?
It's coming from Matt Law, who was extremely good for Tottenham last summer. It's just a personal inkling that the source that Matt Law had at Spurs has since gone. And I'm not going to say who that was, but look, I think it's just the way Fabio Paratici works, that ultimately he identifies so many targets. Like if he's looking for a midfielder, he'll have Phillips on that list. He'll have Tielemans on that list. He'll have players from Italy, Germany, and he'll have a lot of players. He'll whittle that down. He'll negotiate for 5 or 6 and he'll pick one. So I think what we've had with Tottenham in the past, where we're being linked with every single player on the planet, which you're looking at just as paper talk, we could be linked to a similar volume of players, but there actually could be something behind those rumours a bit more now because of the way Paratici works and the way he goes for these transfers. I said it a while ago, Zoe, who I know is a big follower of all of these channels, I said to her on Twitter a while ago that with Calvin Phillips, because he's English, we're going to have to pay a lot more money for him. It's as simple as that. It's English tax. But also, I think we may end up on the wrong end of, if it is a move that we pursue, we may end up on the wrong end of what we had with Harry Kane last summer, where ultimately the player, in this case Phillips, is worth a lot more to the selling club than he is to any other club, because Leeds need Phillips. And you've seen that with the way he's been injured this season. And with other players like Matthias Klick, like Liam Cooper, like Patrick Bamford, when they've been injured, Leeds are worse. So if, let's say, for example, Calvin Phillips is valued at £40 million, Leeds are going to want 60. And there's so many better options out there that we can get for 60, or even better options that we can get for the 40 that we would have paid for Phillips in the first place.
We'd way rather get these incredible signings of De Vrij for 16, Kostic for 15, get 7 or 8 of that. Like players who are just like incredible, Grealish, great players who are on a free or like going to, kind of cheap, running out contracts or a year to go. That's where there's a lot of talent there, maybe, we all love how good the prospect of Phillips is, but Not if it's coming at 60 million. I just don't think that's right for us, you know.
There's something interesting here coming out about Skipp talking about his injury, and he said he reveals that the injury that he currently has dates back to September, and then happened during an injection during the international break ahead of the 3-0 defeat we had to Crystal Palace. And he's just been saying it's been very frustrating. The most difficult part is the unknown with this injury, and it's just about being patient. So that's a bit interesting that it's an injury that dates back to something that happened back in September. And it's only, I guess, he's only missed the last 3 months, so he must have been playing with it, I guess, up until the last 3 months. And that is a bit worrying to hear, because the fact that he's dealt with it for that long and it hasn't been sorted out is quite worrying.
But then the club's got confidence to extend the contract to 2026. It's kind of weird that it's kind of like, this is a problem. Like, we don't know how to fix this. And yet they're going to That's
I also look at that and think he's been playing as well as he was through an injury. So imagine if we can get him fully fit, and then where that ceiling is for that young man. Well, that's actually kind of excited me. I know it's bad news, but I kind of think about where it can go. We super chat there from Beto, the $10. Thanks a million for that on behalf of Ben and Sim. Says, I would like to see us go for Matty Cash. Is that an option? NEV would take it right back?
I think he's good. I think he's great. Again, it's the same thing. He's going to come at a premium, but yeah, I think he's all right. I think he's better than what we got.
I agree he's better than what we have, but I think for the price we'll have to pay for him, there's probably better options out there, I would assume.
Yeah.
I think we need to be aiming our sights higher than Matty Cash. If we want to go Antonio's way and, be challenging for league titles is the ultimate aim, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
we got to be going for better than Matty Cash.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I think if we're looking to improve on what we have on the right-hand side already in terms of Emerson, my grandmother is free. She could probably slot in there all right. But is there anything else you want to touch on in the world of Spurs before we wrap this up?
Arsenal get battered everywhere they go. Let's do it tonight.
We're going to be having a watch-along.
Yeah, we're doing a watch-along tonight, by the way. We're keeping an eye on all 4 games happening over the Premier League tonight. Obviously, we'll be keeping a very close eye on what goes on at Stamford Bridge. Obviously, we're all Chelsea fans tonight, but those words never came out my mouth. Never, ever.
I love it. And you know what? It works out absolutely perfectly for everybody who's watching. So I'm doing a Tottenham transfer stream at 7. And when that's over, I can send everybody over to WeAreTottenhamTV to watch Chelsea put 6 past Arsenal, which I think is going to be an absolutely fantastic night for everyone. Brains, is there anywhere you want to send these beautiful people to follow you on social media?
Here, just keep coming back and watching all the new content, and just like fingers crossed that it goes well tonight. And man, I want us to get over this last game and just go on a little run now, go on a little unbeaten run, maybe next few games, and just get this put to bed. We can do it. Come on, you.
We can do it. We certainly can. And actually, quickly before we do wrap up, we're going to get very quick answers from everybody. Predictions for Brentford against Tottenham on Saturday. Now, as someone said a while ago in the live chat, if we don't predict 3-1 to Tottenham, we might actually win. So keep that in mind. But Sim, we'll come to you first.
3-1 to Tottenham.
I'm going to go with 2-1 to Tottenham.
That's better. That's more like it. Ben?
I don't think you're gonna like my prediction, but I'm gonna go for 1-1 this weekend. I'm actually really scared. I know you asked for quick ones, but I'm gonna give a little bit of a longer answer. But I think that
it's your channel, you can do what you want.
Yeah, thank you. I think when we were looking at the fixture list, I looked at probably, apart from Liverpool, this one was probably the most hardest one out of the lot. So I'm actually really wary about this game. Christian Eriksen, I'm sure, is going to have a really good game and create bucket loads of chances for Brentford and Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney on same goals as Harry Kane, by the way, for the season. So I think that it's going to be a very difficult game. I'm going to go for 1-1, but hoping for a bit of reverse psychology here.
I love that. I hope you're wrong. Brains, what are you saying?
Reverse psychology angle there. I think it's actually going to be 1-1 for a while, and I'm just hoping that we get over something happens, we pull something together, and we get a kind of lucky goal, a lucky break at the end, and run out 2-1 winners. But the realist inside of me is kind of the butthole is clenched tightly for this one.
Absolutely.
John, I could not have said it better myself. I'm going to be overly optimistic here, as a Tottenham fan should be, and I'm going to say we're going to win 2-0. We're going to keep a clean sheet. I don't know. It just feels like one of those games where Spurs go in and it's a tricky one. It's a banana skin, and somehow we managed to come out of there with a victory. And to be honest, I'm expecting a reaction from that defeat to Brighton. I'm expecting us to start taking advantage of what I'm hoping will be defeats from Man United and Arsenal midweek. It's a really, really good opportunity. And Arsenal lose tonight, where those game in hand, as we mentioned, is gone 3 points ahead. A victory with Arsenal playing Man United the weekend, we could be 6 points ahead by the time the full time whistle goes. But look, it's going to be a very, very nerve-wracking game. That's for absolute sure. For everybody who's tuned in, for the 375 of you who are still watching, on behalf of myself, Ben, Sim, and Brains, as always, thanks for watching, and even more as always, come on, you Spurs!
Come on, you Spurs!